Alright, hi everybody, Miss Farland here, and tonight's whisk we are going to talk about the elements of suspense. Alright, so get your whisk out and let's get started. Alright, so first I want you to think about what is the scariest movie you have ever seen? What made it scary? Was it the setting, the creepy characters, the overall mood that was established? So stop and think about what is the scariest movie you've ever seen and why? What made it so scary? So what is suspense? An author creates questions in the reader's mind, causing him or her anxiety about what will happen next. So we've all read those stories where we want to read the next page because it's suspenseful, and it's not necessarily scary all the time. It's just that there's a lot of action and you're on the edge of your seat and you want to know what's going to happen next. So an author creates suspense by using specific literary elements. These elements are mood, onomatopoeia, repetition, characterization, imagery, and pace. So let's take a look at each of these individually. All right, the first is mood. So what is the atmosphere or feeling created by a piece of literature? So for example, is it gloomy, optimistic, cheerful, scary, etc. So what is the overall mood or feeling that you get from the piece of literature? All right. The second is onomatopoeia. So the use of sound words as they mean. So for example, creak, shriek, ice, etc. Right? So all these words can kind of add to that suspense. Next, repetition. So repeating a line or word for emphasis. So an example would be, it was open, wide, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. So they don't repeat words because they don't have another word to say. They can't think of something else. They repeat words for emphasis and to kind of give it that slowness or that creepiness to the story. All right, next we have characterization, the way an author creates a character. Right, and you guys have known this in 7th grade. So physical description, what he or she says, what he or she does, others' reactions, etc. So if you think about the scary movie that you thought about, probably, more than likely, it was a character that made it scary, whether it was Michael Myers from Halloween or any of those kind of characters that added to the suspense. All right, next we have imagery. So an author creates a picture in the reader's mind by appealing to the 5 senses. So for example, the eerie silence was shattered by her scream. All right, so appealing to those senses so that we can create that kind of mental picture in our minds that makes the story come alive in our minds. And lastly, we have pace. So the speed at which the events in the story are taking place, slowly or quickly. So if it's slowly, it's kind of building that suspense, building up to what's going to happen, and then sometimes it moves real quick when it's kind of moving towards that action. So the pacing of a story can really add to the suspense.
It's the power trying to come back on. What is that? Where's the goat? does he think he's going?
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Mr. Grant?
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
Keep absolutely still. This vision is based on movement.
Alright, so hopefully you picked up on some of the elements used. Again, a little different from literature, but hopefully you picked up on the mood that was kind of building the characters and how it kind of develops and how writers develop a scene to create suspense. Alright, so now it's time to summarize. So how do the 6 elements contribute to creating suspense in a story? So fill the lines by using details and elaborating. And then finally, what are 2 questions you have about the 6 elements of suspense? So keep thinking about these elements of suspense, and we're going to take a closer look at the Telltale Heart next week and see how Edgar Allan Poe uses these elements specifically in the Telltale Heart to create that suspense. So finish your whisk, all right, make sure it's all filled in, and I will see you next week.